Yeah, the other problem I have with liberals is that they have this inherent nastiness in them, which is them trying to get back at authority. So they'll do things like throw the middle finger around and they'll swear at really inappropriate moments. So, for example, I was watching a video on YouTube produced by a guy who I would say comes off as rather liberal, but he produces excellent quality videos on history. And he will write. He produce in the videos he produces. He has um, speech bubbles, which are full of which are produced so as to indicate that which historical figures may have spoken at the time, but in modern colloquial English. So instead of that figure speaking or having said, I must leave now, I don't like this situation, this person puts in F this S, as in, you know, the F word and then the S word, implying that the person wants to leave and doesn't like the situation where they are. But this is a historical video which is being produced for the consumption of people who are interested in history. Now, because this guy is a liberal, he speaks in the manner that liberals do, and liberals think that swearing is edgy and cool. But they're exposing potentially children to this kind of thing, and this is what liberals do. I've noticed this with liberals. They think that they don't have any responsibility to anyone ever. They just want to F things up. So this proves that liberals are just irresponsible garbage. They don't want the best for people. Now, I've sworn in a lot of my videos. I don't swear in them very much anymore, but I've sworn in a lot of my videos. But those videos I always put in the category of 18 plus. Truth is, nowadays, children can access that kind of thing. Now, that is something I would seek to fix, but at the moment it is what it is. But I don't do it callously or willy-nilly. I want people to be protected from that kind of thing because it damages our society. There is a time and a place for swearing, but doing it wantonly in a situation where, you know, people are trying to learn something, I think is wrong, and it's creeping into our culture. I get into taxis now and people are swearing quite openly, and that's the taxi driver themselves, because they don't consider that professionalism exists anymore. You know, professionalism is being attacked in our country, and it's all part of this diminishment of standards, and it's all being done in the name of liberalism. Oh, we don't have to be so orthodox anymore, man. You know, staff are working in shops now, and they're dressed like they just came from a youth club. You know, it's disgusting actually, and it's being produced. The companies must know this is happening, which is why I think a lot of the big companies are actually in on it, because they want to watch the degradation of culture. It's not just a case of capitalism bad, you know. That's not how it is. The people who want a one world government are employing, on one side, elements of capitalism, and on the other side, elements of communism. It's part of the same animal. It's a big joke that people think that it's one or the other. It's not. They're two arms of the same beast. It'd be good if a lot more people understood that. You know, anyone who applies their brain to it for a little while will come to that conclusion themselves anyway. The problem is when people don't use their brains and they just listen to what they're told and then just blindly follow. But that seems to be that you know, what happens with the majority of people. They don't want to think. But I think the more you encourage people to think, the better quality of state you have. But the people who are trying to overthrow nations and cause a one world government, they want as many people to be stupid as possible. They don't want people to think. They want people to just absorb nonsense and regurgitate it. What these guys don't realise is that the minority of people who do think will definitely fight back against this nonsense and win. These guys are working, the guys who are doing it, who are producing this problem, are working on the idea of the lowest common denominator. They're trying to use most people to solve a problem, and that's quantity, as opposed to quality. And you don't need that many good quality people to solve a problem. Excuse me. You see, most people follow, right? Naturally, obviously, you don't have 100 leaders and one follower following them. You'll have one leader and 100 followers. The proportions are always that way. So all it takes is for people who do think to get into a position of power, and then they can actually fix problems. So that's what's going to happen. And the people who are trying to institute this one world government, using people like liberals and using people as useful idiots, are going to find that they come completely unstuck, and they're going to be exposed for what they really are, because eventually they're going to have to show their teeth. At the moment they're acting with little kid gloves on, they're acting covered in cotton wool, but eventually they're going to be exposed for what they really are. And then people are going to see, and all the liberals who were like, oh, all this liberal stuff was so wonderful, are going to be like, oh my god, what was this thing? So it's all going to be exposed. It's just weird to, observe this. This has happened before, and it will happen again. But that's just the way of the world. It's just it's been annoying living through this period wherein we have been exposed to such crookery. Is that the word? Crookery? Whereby people have been using media to try and control the masses. But you can't use media to control the masses if people are thinking. And you can't stop people from thinking. You can't do it. So the people who do think are going to completely and utterly destroy this attempt to just run everything into railroad everyone into a one world government. It can't succeed. So the guys who are doing it, I think they know it can't succeed, but they don't have any other options. So they're just going to continue doing it until they're stopped. Okay, fine. Carry on. But anyway, that's the other problem with liberals. They tend to do nasty things like expose kids to swearing. I went into a shop the other day and this woman was wearing, I think she was wearing socks covered in swear words, and I was like, oh no, that wasn't it actually. No, it was a card shop, a greetings card shop, and in the window she had put a massive picture of Santa Claus. This was some time ago during Christmas, I think, obviously, of Santa Claus pulling his pants down and showing his bare buttocks. And I was like, and that was in the high street, and I was like, don't you think that's inappropriate? And she said, no, I've even got socks on that say, and she spoke the C word. And there were families in the shop. I said, really, you just wear them around children? She said, yeah, I don't give a F. And that was the manager of this little shop. And I thought, how disgusting. And that's what liberals are. That might be an extreme example. That's not what all liberals will do, but a lot of them do. And I think it's disgusting, because they think any rules don't apply. Well, the rules are there so as to try and keep society in some sense of order. And at the moment, our society is in the process of being very, very badly harmed. So, anyway, that's the purpose of this video. I don't know what else to say. Fun video, yippee.